lots of Diamondbacks talk coming for us throughout the regular season and before the season as well. I said it 2 days ago, and I stand by it. If you could put me in a crowd chamber right now for 3 weeks just to get me to opening day, I don't need these next 3 weeks. That's totally fine. Just get me there. I'm ready. I'm ready to get there. And I thought the Arizona Diamondbacks, Mitch, they were ready with their roster. And, you know, we only got 3 weeks left. Like, surely there are no more moves in the making, in the running. But you know this.
Not so fast.
You know this, sir, as a longtime producer of Burns and Gambo. That Gambo guy, he knows some stuff. And occasionally he says stuff where you go, hold on a minute, Gambo, what'd you just say? Here's what he said on the show earlier today.
There are 2 center fielders on this roster that had garnered interest from other teams during the offseason before spring training. There are still teams that are interested in the Diamondbacks center fielders. So if the Diamondbacks do add a closer, it will be via trade. It will be via a trade. And it is something to keep your eye on. Right now, they've got their guys. But if they are going to make a move in the bullpen for a closer, it would likely be them getting a closer for one of their center fielders.
So not included in this bite, he clarified that if there are 3 people on the roster currently in the race for closer, it is the obvious ones. Justin Martinez, Kevin Ginkel, A.J. Puck. I think it should not be overlooked that the Diamondbacks, based off of how Gambo reported that, do not have to make this trade. But they would make this trade because it would improve an area that they think could get better than it already projects to be.
Yeah, and just one of those moments where working with Gambo over the years, like your antenna should just like perk up right now over the next couple of weeks. Is something going to happen? He's not saying something's going to happen. Like don't read into it that much. This is like when this type of thing goes on Twitter, and then all of a sudden everyone thinks that they're trading Alek Thomas for Ryan Helsley within the week. You know, like we're not going to those types of lengths. But what this sort of information from Gambo being presented on the show allows us to do, Mitch, is have a couple of different conversations we haven't had. We've talked about closer quite a bit, but we haven't really talked too much about this third outfield spot because you've got Lourdes in left, you've got Corbin in right, you've got center, which is where Alek Thomas could go. It's where Jake McCarthy could go as well. And it was one of the big headlines going into their offseason. It's like, will they move on from another outfielder in this surplus? Because remember, Dalton Varsho was the previous guy in the surplus to address another need. And it sounds like they are at the very least exploring this, which is fascinating to me at this point. Because I want to talk more about what you read into it for Thomas and McCarthy first, as opposed to the closers. Let's get to them a little later. What do you think about Alek and Jake heading into this year?
In general, are you just like from a value perspective, or who I think would be more likely to take the job?
The whole kit and caboodle, like how you value them as baseball players. Which one do you feel like is more valuable at this point? Which one do you not want to see go? Do they need to trade one of these guys? This is one of the things from a value perspective where they need to trade them. Like, what do you think?
So as far as who I think would be more likely to win the opening day job, I think that person is also the more valuable asset on the market, and that's Jake McCarthy. That's not to say that Jake is guaranteed to win the center field job, but in general, I do think he carries a little more value than Alek Thomas would on the open market. Maybe teams are thinking differently. Maybe they just want to go out and get, Kevin Kiermaier 2.0, where he's an amazing defender, he's really, really fast, and he's very good at covering grass. That's Alek, right? Alek's problem is his inconsistency at the plate. And he really struggled with injuries the last couple of seasons, but he's still a valuable player. It's just a question is, do the Diamondbacks see him as a major league level player, as opposed to Jake McCarthy, who has very much proven his ability to stay in the major league levels, has gone through the frustrating season of 2023, but it was bookended by that 2 months in 22, and then what he was able to do more so in the latter half of 24, that I think has gotten more attention nationally and locally here as well in terms of his value as a player. And then thinking about who they would even consider behind that, there's one little wrinkle to this. Blaze Alexander being out for several weeks. He would have been another candidate that they would have tried out in the outfield as just, hey, just in case we need you to play outfield as opposed to infield, we have you. They've got a couple of other guys that can do that. Ildemaro Vargas can do a little bit. Greg Kessinger and why am I blanking? Garrett Hampson. But Blaze was the one on the inside track, I would think. And now with this injury, with him being out several weeks, I wonder what play that has on whether or not they end up deciding to move one of these outfielders, because I might actually be comfortable with where they are with the bullpen right now.
I like how you phrased it on Alec, and I agree with you on the bullpen as well. I like how you phrased it with Alec, because if they're not sure that he is an everyday starting center fielder in the majors right now, then they should trade him right now, because his value with where it is, and I think Jake has really certified himself, in my opinion, as a quality MLB outfielder. Am I saying he's going to make 3 All-Star teams? No, but Jake gets on base. He's incredibly fast and plays very solid defense. I think the weird thing with McCarthy over these 3 years of quality MLB time for him has just been that he's essentially just a low-contact singles hitter. You look at his OPS over his career, it's at 726. The OPS plus, which 100 is average, is at 102, so like the slightest of above averages. But right now, Baseball Reference projects him to have 15 doubles, 6 triples, and 9 homers next year. So he's not an extra bases guy, really. He hits a lot of singles, he walks a little bit, and he gets on base. His Baseball Savant page is fascinating because his average exit velocity is in the first percentile. He does not hit the ball hard at all. He barrels it rarely. That's the 4th percentile. Hard hit percentage, 2nd percentile. But what he does is he makes contact and he hits singles. Like, he just hits a lot of singles, is incredibly fast. They project him down for 27 stolen bases this year. He's had 23, 26, and 25 in the last 3 years. That should factor into this sort of discussion as well. So in my opinion, with all of those numbers and everything, like, he is an MLB outfielder for sure. That can, at the very worst, in my opinion, be your 4th guy. I think you're thrilled with him as your 4th guy. Alec, I don't know. His OPS plus is 73. We're talking about a guy who could win a platinum glove one day, not a gold glove, a platinum glove, but he is a major. The postseason was so exciting as a Diamondbacks fan for like 5,000 reasons. Like, top 15 on the list probably was Alec showing a bit with his bat.
That
and
home
it was
run against Craig Kimbrell was nuts.
Incredible, and was like oh my gosh, can Alec like carry this over into next year, starting to find his bat? This is so huge. And then injuries came up, and then he only played in 39 games in 2024 last year. But yeah, to go back to your point on like closers, like, is this still something they should be exploring? Do we feel like that need is dire enough to where you're not really sure what the situation is behind them? Like, Grichuk can be used on the corners a little bit, sure, but like, in the system, you've got Jorge Barrosa, who has been up a little bit, but outside of that, in terms of like the long-term projections, remember when we were like, you got to save a spot for Drew Jones? Now we don't really know.
Where's he even going to start this year?
On Drew Jones, MLB Pipeline's new 2025 prospect rankings come out, and he's dropped to 7th on the Diamondbacks list overall, and was a guy who was widely thought of as either their 1st or 2nd best prospect with Lawler the whole time he's been in the system. They just don't have a lot there. So it just seems like the type of situation where you want to wait. But here's the problem. If you wait and Alec plays horribly offensively again,
he has no value.
No value at all, and you miss out on this opportunity to fill a need in a win-now situation when you do have a need somewhat.
And Gambo did mention that if they don't get it done now, this is something they could explore again around the deadline. There's really only 2 candidates that immediately come to mind in considering what direction would they go. Pete Fairbanks, who's in Tampa Bay, and we're not really sure what direction Tampa is going to go. They signed Ha-Seong Kim this offseason, but they've cut bait with a lot of the star power that was set to make some of the big money deals. And Tampa is just in a very tough division, so maybe they decide to move on from Fairbanks, who is, I believe, 30, and it has another year of control. So sacrificing a McCarthy or a Thomas would be a reasonable offer. The other one, who comes with far more sex appeal, if you will, Ryan Helsley. The problem is he's on an expiring deal.
Yeah.
So it feels like Jake McCarthy would be an overpay from my perspective on that. Whereas Alec Thomas, I would be more on the, if you guys can figure it out, great, by all means. I'm also not really sure what the Cardinals' outfield is going to be. They have Lars Nootbaar, who they really like, of course. Michael Ciani, I think, has been getting a majority of the center field reps. He's not that much better than Alec. He kind of fits the similar mold.
Jordan Walker is a piece for them, but what kind of piece?
Exactly.
They don't know.
It's confusing.
Helsley is the fascinating one to me because I can't help, Mitch, but go back to the Corbin Burns signing and just like we're not trading Zach. We're going to try and win the World Series this year because that's what not trading Zach means. So, again, you're looking at a situation where You as an organization in any sport, basketball, football, hockey, baseball, whatever, you should be at least a year ahead on your talent evaluation of your own players compared to the rest of the league evaluating your own players. At least a year ahead, if not 2 years ahead. So again, if they forecast that Alex's offense isn't going to get much better and that value is going to dip even more, going for a guy who in the last 3 years has 225 strikeouts and 167 innings with a 0.95 whip. Yes, he's on expiring. Who knows if he would be back, but getting that type of guy to go with J-Mart as your 8-9, pucks mixed in there somewhat, it's tantalizing. But like, he's the guy to me. Like, Fairbanks is fine. He's good. But I would want like a guy like Helsley, who was an all-star last year, who had 49 saves last year. That's the type of guy you want to bring in if you make this type of risky move.
Plus, it means the Dodgers don't get him, which is just as important.
Don't they have enough already, like everywhere?
I was looking it up earlier. They have Kirby Yates, who closed last year, Tanner Scott, who closed last year, their own closer, and Evan Phillips, who essentially lost the job during the year, Michael Kopech, who became the closer later on in the year. Yes, I agree. Don't you guys have enough?
Do they have Gratterall still, too? The guy who throws like
They
103
do
or
have
whatever?
Gratterall, yeah.
Oh, my God.
It's unfair.